Before the next episode of X Job Downloaded starts, I have a big favour to ask. If you've enjoyed any of our episodes so far, please can you click on the follow button on your platform. I'm on Apple, Spotify, Google, Amazon and YouTube. It costs nothing to follow, but makes a real difference to me as a podcast producer. Thank you. This interview is being tape recorded. I'm Paul Maleary and this is X Job Downloaded. And today we're going to interview Paul Nicholls. Now, Paul Nicholls served with Essex Police. He has got the QPM. He was a dog handler and he's had an extraordinary life within the police service. And since leaving, his big battle now is with Parkinson. Good morning, Paul.
All right.
All right. Understated as ever. Paul, it's interesting, and I say this every time because I've picked on a load of mates to do this to start off with, and our history goes back quite a way. Because in 1979, I used to deliver newspapers to your grandfather in Great Bromley, but before that, your grandfather Stan was my dad's sergeant in Essex Police. How about that then?
I never knew that. I never knew you lived in Bromley. I never knew you used to deliver papers to the old grandpop's flat. I never knew that, mate.
Yeah, no, it's bizarre, isn't it? And yeah, so our paths crossed, and then of course we joined the police around a similar time, and we worked in different places. Now you started at Harlow, didn't you? Mm-hmm. But initially you went to Ashford Police Training School.
Shotley was mine.
You went to Shotley, did you?
Yeah, I was on parade there, and we had the frost on our helmets, and people were falling all over the place. And in fact, I remember one of the things I remember about Shotley. I don't know if you remember it as well, Paul. You used to have to on creases in your tunics.
That's right, yeah.
And I got a bit over enthusiastic one day, and I burnt a hole in my sleeve. So I had to get this thing repaired. So I had like one tunic to last me. Was it 12 weeks or something up in Shotley?
I went to Ashford, so you must have been one of the first lot to go to Shotley because they sort of specialised in Ashford to start off with, for many years, and then they sent people over to Shotley quite late on. But so you went to Harlow from there, but you're a Chelmsford boy, so you grew up round there. What was that like when you first went to Harlow? Because it was a great place to work for me.
It was for me as well, but it was a real eye-opening. I was like a very, very young, just turned 20. I was turned 20 in November. I was joined in December, so I was a really young boy. And I think I remember you saying recently, Paul, in one of the other podcasts about how I'm turned to domestics, and I'm like this kid basically trying to sort out 30-year marriages, and it's like a joke, really. Yeah. But what a place! We had the old ski slope there, so at night times to get the old kitchen trays out and huzz ourselves down the ski slope.
And you had Gilby's there as well, didn't you? At the time, the old gin people, and Harlow's a very interesting place to work. And you had some interesting characters. What was the highlight of working there, other than going down the ski slope on a tray?
I think another funny thing we had was the era of the raves at the warehouses, empty warehouses and things. And I'm sure Simon won't want me telling this story. So me and Simon are on point duty, you'd call it, or guard duty. This empty warehouse, drugs everywhere, right? So they got this one of these chairs I'm sitting on now with the wheels, the casters, flat floor. So you imagine what happened next, can't you? So me and him are pushing each other across this floor, and in comes the chief. Simon, screeching with laughter as we're flying across the floors, and as we go flying past him.
Is that John Bunyard then?
It probably was, yeah.
Yeah.
It probably was then. So it's things like that, you know, and it's people like Simon and Jason, and I'm still pals with them now. So
yeah, it's good.
Some good times.
The camaraderie was different, and I know we spoke about it earlier on. The fact is that they had canteens in the police stations. The police stations were open 24 hours a day. I mean, now they're open till 5 o'clock in the evening. You had to go to burglaries. There was none of this desk-based investigation, and the policing has changed, some for good, some for bad, in the past 36 years, which is what we're talking about, isn't it? Or 37 years now. Where did you go to from Harlow?
Well, right, culture shock. So I'm going from the big city of Harlow to Halstead. Housted.
How did that come about then?
Well, I lived in Chelmsford, so I wanted to get a bit closer to home. So I asked for Braintree, and they stuck me out Housted. So in those days, you had what was called repeater sets. So the way the radio worked from the car rather than the old digital radio.
Yeah.
So that was a real eye-opener working out there, because you work in. At Harlow, you used to get like one map with all the streets on it. Out there, you used to get a book with all the villages in it. To how to
no sat navs.
No, nothing like that at all. So I went from there to Housted, and then back to eventually got to Braintree. We had a really good time. I love working in Braintree.
I love to work
good
in
fun,
Braintree.
good fun, Braintree. So from Braintree, then came that I can't remember what year it was now. We had redeployment where all the people were getting shoved west because there was a shortage of people. So I thought I was being posted to Loughton, but managed to get to Brentwood. Enjoyed Brentwood. That's a great place to work as well.
It is, yeah.
And then on to my first love of dogs.
So when we were at Braintree, were you there at the old police station or the new police station?
New one.
The new one, yeah. I mean, we had a bar, there were parties there, and it was work hard and play hard.
Yeah,
it really was. I mean, we had a real laugh. And I know we were talking earlier on about the upper floor at the new police station, as we call it, and there would be races around the top floor because you could open all the doors. And I vividly remember Taff Phillips being in a shopping trolley at Jackie Cheer's leaving do, I think it was, and being pushed around the top floor in a race. And yeah, right.
In fact, we used to have bicycle races because it was a perfect shape, wasn't it? You used to get, prop all the doors open, and you went in the side. We used to time them, so it was like a fantastic time. Yeah.
It was very, very puerile, but it was good fun, and like I say, everybody enjoyed it, and nobody got killed in the fun part. So your love of dogs, I mean, it's well documented that your love of dogs. But how did that all start for you? Because there's a massive process to go through to get onto the dog section.
Well, just take back a few years. When I was probably 14 or 15, I was walking Chelmsford, Broomfield one. I saw this dog van go hurtling past. I think it was the old escort vans then.
Yeah.
I saw the dog bobbing about in the back, just the head. And for some reason, that was it. That was what I wanted to do. So basically, I joined the police to become a dog handler.
Is that right?
Yes, but the process is a long. It took me 13 years to get on. 3 failed attempts because I was just rubbish at interviews.
Wow.
So, but it's just something I was desperate to do. So after 13 years, that was it. Best day of my life. Phone call, you in. And
so what happens then? You go through a selection process, and where do you go, and how do you get paired up with your dog?
My first dog was a dog called Sabre, or Mr. Sibbs, as everybody affectionately called him. But we went down to Surrey, and I'd got Sabre beforehand. He'd come from a rescue home up near Brentwood way, Willingale way, maybe.
Okay.
And the sort of standing joke. The woman used to say to us, "How we've got some dogs. How would you want your dog to be?" 18 months. There you go. He could have been 5 or 6 years old for all we know. But so I got poor Mr. Sibbs, who grew up with his sister in a gypsy's car, abandoned car. And so the poor old boy was abandoned. He should never have been a police dog in his life.
Oh.
He was as soft as anything. But he was my first dog, and your first dog should.
Yeah, your biggest love.
Yeah, so I had Mr. Sibbs until unfortunately he left, and then the sort of process goes on each time you get allocated a dog. So yeah, so my first course was at Surrey, so I loved that. Down there for 12, I can't remember, 10, 12 weeks. Down
and what do they cover from there? I mean, what aspects of, because people see a police dog, and 9 times out of 10. And we'll come on to this later on, but 9 times out of 10, they'll see a police dog in a van, mm-hmm. or they'll see a police dog at a public order incident, a football match, something like that. They very rarely get to see the working police dog with all the other bits that it does. What sort of areas would you have done on your training?
Well, it's anything. It's tracking people, missing people, tracking burglars, looking for stolen property, it's searching buildings, searching countryside for missing people or suspects. And then you could obviously you diversify a little bit. Then you've got the dogs that do firearms, the dogs that do different sorts of skill sets. But predominantly, it's, the bases are the searching for people or property. In a nutshell, that's what they do. Right,
because they're so clever. I mean, they're just but they are part of your family, aren't they? And if anything happens to your dog, you really do take it personally, and rightfully so. And I know that there've been a number of tragedies where dogs have been involved in incidents, and the whole force feel it. You know, it's not just the dog section. When a dog gets injured or killed, everybody feels it, and it's but we love our animals, don't we? In the UK,
almost it's quite strange. Almost more than when an officer gets injured or hurt.
Yeah.
The outpouring of grief or sentiment, if you like, is more for a dog. It's strange, isn't it?
It is strange, but I get it. I mean, I'm a dog lover, as you know, and I absolutely adore those dogs, and that always. And we had German Shepherds. My dad was a dog handler in the army before he joined the police.
Really?
Yeah, they were a different type of dogs then. They were proper attack dogs, I suppose. I don't know what you'd call them, anything else, but yeah. So you've done your 12 weeks. Where did you go to from once you've got your ticket, because you have to be certified, don't you, as a dog handler?
Licence, of course.
Licensed. Yeah. Once you've got your licence, where did you go?
Sandon. So I worked at Sandon and that suited down the game because obviously a Chelmsford boy, I knew all the roads. I knew how to get to everywhere. I didn't have to look at a map, so it was perfect for me. And then they started to put us out to the hub. So then I went to Braintree for a little while, and then we came back to Sandon. Yeah.
When you were on there, what types of? I mean, before we move on to specialists, what types of incidents did you attend? Was it It was a busy lifestyle, I would imagine, because there's so few police dogs.
Yeah, I mean, it was an issue. You have to bear in mind that although we have a police dog, we were still dealing with all the actual general policing work. So we're still going to burglaries, if you like, doing the burglary, and domestics and things, as well as the other all the other dogs work as well. So it was really busy. But I mean, latterly I had a dog called Fidget. It was a little bitch, and she had a fantastic nose on her. I remember one particular job where a guy got missing from Bruford Hospital, and it was really cold, really snowing there. Really worried about him, and she must have tracked. I think we tracked for about 2.5 hours. Eventually we got to this garden, and she goes under this tree and looks up and she's barking up the top of the tree. Luckily the guy hadn't done anything other than was stood on the branch, and he jumped off the branch, scared the life out of her. He scared the life out of her. So it just goes to show how incredible their nose is, their sense of smell is. Yeah. And
with the general police dog, they're a great pacifier. They're a great tool to bring people under control. And when they don't get brought under control, they get brought down and brought into control. I remember Graham Lent watching one of his dogs go across a marketplace and take this guy straight off of his feet. Bless him, old Graham. But yeah, I mean, they're a brilliant tool. And I still say it, I think that every police station should have one, at least one. Every shift should have one, just to work for them in their key areas. You look at here, Braintree Division. The old Braintree Division is as big as Bedfordshire, but didn't have a permanent dog section or a forensics support team. Scenes of crime. That just didn't make sense. And now they haven't got a custody suite here.
What?
Yeah, that's I understand. There's no custody suite at Braintree, so everyone gets taken to Chelmsford or Colchester. So there's massive abstractions there now. When you had your dogs, how many dogs were you working at the time?
To start off with, just the one. And then you can apply for a specialist dog. Then you're working two at a time. So then you could perhaps get a drugs dog or a weapons dog or an explosives dog or a forensic dog. And you've got your shepherd as well. So that made it interesting because of the diversity of the work you're doing. So so sort of you just got the one. Then you hopefully, if you want to, you go on to two.
And what specialist dog did you have?
So the first dog, bless him, was my drugs dog called Archie. So he was a weapons recovery dog. He would try to find all sorts of weapons and cash, dollars, sterling, and euros, and also all sorts of drugs. So I had Archie, and then I got what's called a passive drugs dog, dogs that search people at festivals, things like that, or at airports. So they like scan the air around people. So we would work V, and that was just ridiculous. Just like Shell MPs, we just stood in the entrance, and we'd have like a team of people working like 2 transit full of PCs, and I'd kid you not, within half an hour the vans are full, and we'd go and sit in the van for half an hour while they had to clear them, get processed, and get rid of them.
Yeah. I mean the V Festival. There's 170,000 people go through there at a weekend, or did. And everybody would get to meet a police officer of some sort. In fact, they're probably more likely to meet a copper there than they would be in their own homes if they lived in a town of 170,000 people. So how do you train a dog to sniff out cash or sniff out guns? I mean, drugs, I suppose it's all the same sort of working process, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, some people think that you actually feed the the drugs to the dogs so they understand how it smells or tastes. But that's not how it
No,
works.
thank God.
I don't think that's very fair on the dogs either. So what we used to do is to put the drugs out, and because it was, or the cash, because it was an alien smell to the dog. As soon as the dog would stop and look at, investigate that new smell, then we'd reward it with a clicker or drop the ball or the toy on them.
Right.
So they then began to associate that smell with their reward.
Right. Okay.
So basically, when they were working, they were obviously looking for the stuff just only to get their toy, their favourite thing in the world, you know.
Yeah.
So that's how we did it. It wasn't anything more complicated than that. Basically, just an alien smell. The dog gets rewarded, and away you go.
But you make it sound as if it just happens overnight. Not every dog is capable of being trained to that level. There are some failures in the dog world.
Yeah.
And I've seen it where they've just thrown the ball and the dog's distracted in a heartbeat and it goes after the ball. You know that the person's carrying drugs. How does that feel when you know? Because when we stop people will say, "No, I haven't got anything on me, mate," and the dog indicates. How does that make? I know it made me feel, but how did that make you feel?
Well, the good about dogs is I just say that to people. Like, the dog doesn't profile people. We do.
Yeah.
You look at people and you think, right, you won't have drugs on you. You will have drugs on you, and then that person walks past. You think you have drugs, and the dog does nothing.
Yeah.
So that's the beauty about dogs, is that they never profile anybody. So when I worked up at Harwich one day, and we was just took out for a walk with the skipper. We just talked to this lad walked up to us, funny enough, and Charlie, funny enough, his name was drug dog called Charlie.
Right.
He got a white moustache. I kid you not. So we stopped and he looked at this kid's pocket. I said to the kid, "Look, what's in it?" "Oh, nothing, mate." I said, "The dog can't lie. He doesn't have to lie. What's in your pocket?" "Oh, hey, it takes out a bit of cannabis, you know." So it seems like that. You just think you have to learn to just trust your dog, basically. Yeah. But it was like a fantastic feeling when that happened.
And what was the most exciting thing that you found? I mean, during all the deployments.
One job we went to with Archie, funny enough. It was in Romford, funny enough, because they hadn't got any drugs dogs in the area for that time. It was like years and years ago. And it was what was it? I think it was one of those places where they were filming adult films.
Oh, okay, yeah.
There was no adult film.
You'll have to talk me through it, mate. I've never seen any.
So anyway, can you go and search his Bentley in the drive? Okay, in the search in the back, and he stops in, gets in his bag. Opened up, it was like so much money. I'd never seen so much money in my life.
Really?
Yeah, it was like $500,000, something like that. And the Met said, right, he said, we've got to get rid of this bag really quick because otherwise we're going to get robbed of it. They're going to come and nick the money off us, hold us up to get rid of this money. Yeah. So that was quite good.
It's funny how much cash there is still out there. Even now, I know that's a few years ago, but even now there's still a few quid. When a dog fails, what happens to that dog? Ordinarily, when a dog is no longer fit for purpose, that sounds awful. But when a dog doesn't pass a course, what do the police service do with those dogs?
Well, there's a waiting list for people who want police dogs.
Is there?
Yeah, we used to have a book. I'm sure it was a book. Even in the kennels or at the office, where you used to have people would ring up and say, if you ever get any dogs that don't make it, we'd take them off your hands.
Really? Oh,
whether
cool.
it be a specialist dog or a shepherd. But sometimes you get the handlers who would want to keep them anyway. So there's a process of vetting, make sure the house is all right for the people that have the dog and things like that. Be like the RSPCA do. But no.
And contrary to some trolls, police dogs are so well loved and so well looked after. And I've been in a car when on a blue light run with a dog handler, and I think the dog was enjoying it as much as you're travelling at 100 miles an hour plus, and the dog is absolutely loving it. I mean, we couldn't hear the radio because the dog knew that we were on our way to something.
When you think, I mean, I used to liken it to like they are like elite athletes, aren't they? So they get the best food. They get the best exercise, get the best training, get the best veterinary fees, they get the best everything. So they're like, if the dog isn't working, then he's useless, isn't he? So we need to make sure the dogs are in tip-top condition all the time. So they're like elite athletes, and that's how they're looked after as well.
And working, when you came over to work at Braintree, because you knew that area as well, it's very, very rural. So and this is a massive assumption, but I assume that the tracking element was probably more difficult simply because of the expanse of ground that you were trying to cover. What was that like when you would go from here to Great Chesterford, which is like 40 minutes away?
To be honest with you, I mean, I just used to love the opportunity to get her out of the dog out just to get her working. I didn't get where I worked or what I did, but that was my passion was tracking, because it was such a good skill for the dog to have. And there was like two types of tracking. There's the tracking where the person walks across a field or a ground, so that's called the ground disturbance. Then you got the sort of scent in the air they leave, yeah.
Right.
So that was more my interest, was like trying to find out a bit more about how people left scent on, because people walk through an area and their scent would get caught on bits of tree or a bit of grass or something. They call it rafts. The rafts are skin off someone's head or their face. So that was my passion. I went to Finland to learn more about that, to learn more about how the dogs would work and about how we could increase the chance of catching someone.
Finland?
And he's still a good friend of mine now, a guy called Ilkka Homola.
What was that like, going to another country? I take it you didn't take your dog with you?
Cold. But I know, I mean, you know, a dog handler's a dog handler, isn't it? You know, if you sit in a sauna in Finland when you have your clothes on, you're all just dog handlers altogether, right? Yeah. No, but they was. He was taking like scent work to a different level. He was talking about they'd worked on the system where it was like a scent lineup. So they put like the scent of a suspect against other six other people, and then they showed the dog a hammer, for instance, the suspect a touch, and the dog would go along the line and he'd pick out the person that was.
Wow,
that was incredible, and it was proven tested for a court purpose. So that was actually used in court. Some of these cases.
How cool is that? Did you get to travel a lot with doing your research?
I went to Sweden. We went and saw a dog psychologist over there, and if you know anything about people who have like child psychologists got the worst behaved kids in the world, don't they? Yeah. This guy got the worst behaved dog.
Oh, really?
He'd be trying to mount your leg and barking at you and biting you and all sorts, and he'd be like saying, "Get out, stop doing that."
It's like a mechanic never fixes his own car.
Yeah.
The process of dog handling within the British Police, is there a standard that everybody adheres to, or do different forces have different adherence?
No, it's an ACPO approved course.
It is.
So everyone's licensed to the same standard. Everyone across the country. Everyone is the same standard. So there's certain criteria you have to meet as a team. Not just the dog, but it's the handler as well. So you're assessed and licensed as a team. So that's across the board. Everyone has to do the same thing.
Wow. And I don't even know if Sanders still in place. Have they still got kennels over there? Still got kennels.
As far as I'm aware, yeah.
Yeah. Where did it go to from there then, Paul? Because you've done your general police duties with your dog. You've got your specialist recovery dog, etc. What happens next for Paul Nicholls?
Well, the next dog I had was a dog called a forensic recovery dog. So a dog that works at murder scenes. It's like a body recovery dog as well. So if you had like a car crash or a plane crash, they'd send this dog in to try and...
Wow.
And also there was using to locate people that were drowned as well. So I had this terrorist of a dog called Ludo, who we got from a family in Frinton actually, and he was an awesome dog. Yeah, so he was. I've been away and researched. I looked at all this stuff about how the Americans used their dog to try and find people in the water, and this and that. So he was the first dog to be used in the southeast.
Right. And what breed was he?
He was a cocker. So we had to, because of mutual aid, we had to be. The vets had to call us as well because they hadn't got one.
Really?
So
that must hurt.
So they had to use this. We used in Kent, Suffolk, Norfolk, and Essex and Hertfordshire, I think. Yeah, so we had a good time with him. He was a good dog.
And what sort of cases did you work on? Any interesting that you can talk about?
Yeah, so the first one, our first job was a missing person down in Greystone, that's where I live now. And the guy got missing over the Christmas period, missing for about 10 days. They said, can you come down and search this area of waste ground, make sure he's not there. So I got him out searching this area of waste ground, and he kept pulling me down to this flooded ditch. I didn't know what was in there. There was no marks on the side to indicate anybody had fallen through down into there. I looked across to the field if there's any horses or anything. There wasn't. So I said to the guys, look, I've not been working him long. This is what he's doing. You know, you might want to put the divers in there a bit, see what's in there. So next day I was busy searching somewhere else, and I get the phone call. Yeah, we found the poor chap who's in the bottom of this flooded ditch. Yeah. And that was it.
And that's where he'd been indicating.
Yeah, and that was us. And that was us made. And it was like the next best thing since I especially when we were after that.
I bet you were. And did you get to go and work in the other forces then?
Yeah. We worked in Kent for a missing person. We worked in Luton, I think, for a woman missing for years and years and years. Eventually, they found her skeleton like a dirt pile in the garden. It wasn't us that indicated to it, but just like case like that, just some really interesting stuff with it.
Yeah. No, and they're another force to be reckoned with, because as the police tactics evolve, so your DNA, your CCTV, your dogs, we're closing the doors for active criminals. The problem I foresee is that it becomes a reliance on some of these tactics and techniques, and therefore they don't encompass what we did previously. You know, your house to house. There's too much reliance on the modern tactics. But that said, it's a brilliant part of the armoury. Where did you go to from there? Because you've obviously you took part in the dog trials. I don't mean at a court, but you thankfully, but you took part in the dog trials. Yeah, you won that, didn't you? You won the dog trials.
Yeah, with Fidget. Yeah, my little girl Fidget. But by then, I mean the Parkinson's was already starting to take hold of me.
Was it?
Looking back now, the way I was shuffling around, I remember Mark Baldwin saying to me, "Look, what's wrong with you?" Because you're shuffling all the time. My speech would get worse. My writing was bad. So stress affects you. So we won the force trial. We went through the regional trials.
Right.
Which was just like a step up really if we get the nationals, and it wasn't down to early, but it was just my nerves really in the day and affected me, and we sort of crashed and burned a little bit. But I was just proud of her for the fact that we actually done something I wanted to do. I'd won the force trials and I won the tracking trophy, albeit the day we did the tracking we did it in snow, which is a bit unfair really because it's
there is a little bit. There's footprints in.
I said to the side, I said, "Look, not being funny, but this ain't fair. Is it? You just got to do it."
But I don't need the dog. I can see with it. When do you think you started getting the symptoms for Parkinson's?
Probably about then. I would say, Paul. When was it? A couple of years before I was diagnosed, at least.
Okay.
Because I remember.
And you're a young man. Let's face it. How old are you now? You're
55.
55. So you're a young bloke to be getting Parkinson's. Yeah.
So obviously I was still in the dog section. I was struggling a little bit, and eventually Jamie Edwards said to me, "Look, Paul, let's just start. It's just ridiculous. I'm going to take you out now. I'm going to go out and have a look at you, see what you like." And it's one of those awful moments. So I was struggling with struggling, right? So we get in the car to go somewhere, and I couldn't put the seatbelt in.
Oh, God.
Bing, bing, bing. That excruciating about a minute of that.
Yeah.
He said, "For Christ's sake, give us it." So I knew then that was it.
That was it.
And actually said, "Paul, so that's it." So I think it's probably a relief more than anything. So I spent a year or so in the office sorting out, I don't know, displays and things like that before the FMO said, "That's it. You're done."
Did you go before you're 30? Or
yeah, the year before.
Did you? And, I mean, you were a very proud police officer of that, there is no doubt. And you did some great stuff. I remember you looking for the missing person out this way, the lad that went missing, and, you know, you'd go out and do your stuff. But before you left, I mean, you made some remarkable changes for the police service, and you always championed the police dog. That was your ultimate aim, to make sure that you got the right recognition. But so what did you do in order to impact on other people's viewpoint of having dogs?
So one of the things we did was I wanted to improve the way we train the dogs. I wanted the dogs to have to do things because they wanted to rather than because they had to do things.
Yeah.
So me and my friend Dave Hibbert, who's up in the West Midlands now, he's only he's a civilian dog trainer, but he's a fantastic dog trainer. We set up what's called Impact, which is the first ever police dog training conference and seminar in Birmingham. We had speakers coming from America and all sorts of places, attended by dog handlers from everywhere. Unfortunately, it was curtailed because of COVID. So that was just one thing that we did to try and improve the standard of training.
Yeah. Are you going to try and reinstate that? Is that a plan, or is that? I mean, given the circumstances around your Parkinson's, that's quite a lot to take on as well, isn't it?
Yeah, obviously, I'm sure Dave would like to, but that's down to him, really, Paul.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was a real good thing, because you got people in this room. In fact, Ilkka Homela coming from Finland for that as well.
Right.
So with people in the room from all over the country, all sort of walks of life. It wasn't just police dog handlers there. So it was just trying to get people to understand what made us tick a little bit more as well.
Fascinating. I think you've undersold yourself, if I'm honest with you, mate, because you actually got the QPM for your work with your police dogs. And to get the Queen's Police Medal, King's Police Medal as it is now, I accept that there are some people that will be put up for it because they're thoroughly nice people and they're pals of somebody else. But actually, you're not like that. You've never sat in anybody's club. You got it through your hard work and tenacity. It was a culmination of everything that you've done. So your body recovery dogs but what was that like when you got told that you were getting the QPM?
Well, I've been because the process is that I think you have to get recommended by Chief Constable. The report goes to the Chief Constable, then he has to put it through to the PCC, and it gets recommended. Then it goes up to wherever it goes up to the Buckingham Palace, I suppose. And then you get the funny enough, I was living somewhere else at the time, I think, before the current address, and I had this missed pass come through, so like someone's letter come through saying got this registered letter, but he didn't think I was in, so I was running there after the post and chasing the postman, going back with this letter, opened it, first thing you see is Buckingham Palace, and we're proud to actually been ordered the QPM. So then obviously the old media circus starts, doesn't it?
But you can't tell anyone to start off with, can you?
No, so you can't tell anyone at all, but I told Jamie, it was my skipper, and Brad put me in for it, so I told him because I was just so excited.
The lovely Brad Dickel.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's super cool, isn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, so that was that, and then the day comes around and you go to Buckingham Palace, and I was really fortunate to get Her Majesty to present mine, and I was there at the same time as Sir Mo Farah got his award. And
did they talk to you? Did the other recipients talk to you, or were they all pretty much in their own little...
Well, I talked to Mo. I don't think he appreciated what I was... I saw Greg go, oh, well, Greg told him, and he's like, look at me and say, who the bloody... Because I was just in civilian, I wasn't even in so he was like, who the bloody hell are you? Yeah, so we went up there, and I met Her Majesty, and I had a good chat with her and told her about the memorial and stuff I was working on, and thoroughly bent to her about what I was doing.
Oh, fantastic! Yeah, I mean it is, and you know we've got the King now, but we absolutely adored the Queen, and but you worked hard for it, mate. So let's talk about the police memorial. What does that mean, and how does that work?
Right. So when I lost my first dog, I was at my sister's wedding. In fact, because we've got kennels, so when we were away on holiday the day, got the kennels where the girls look after the dogs all the time, make sure they're fed and watered. Yeah. So I took the dog to the vets the previous night. I said, look, so the vet not very happy with what he's looking like. He looked like he got like you tapped his stomach, he felt like a drum, you know. Yeah. He said, it's all right, it's just got nothing wrong with him at all. So the next day I said to the girls, look, please, can you take it, if he's not improved, please take him back to the vets. And then I got the dreaded call from Graham, bless him. Graham Lant, bless him. Yeah. My good pal Kieran said, I'm going to start well laughing in a minute. No, it's all right. Do you want any tissues? Kieran took him to the vets. And Graham ran me at my sister's wedding, and I was like, I'm so sorry, Paul. I said, what do you mean you're so sorry? About what? What have you done? Oh. He said, well, there's nothing we can do. They opened up and he was just riddled with cancer. You got me going now, you muppet. So he said, the kindest thing we can do is just like put him to sleep, which is what they did. So I managed to hold it together till I got in the car, and my wife, as she's now Joan, was driving, and I just broke down. She had to pull over. I just couldn't control myself. I was just bawling my eyes out. Yeah. Got back home, and here's a funny story coming up. Got back home, and Kieran had left his collar in the kitchen for me, so that broke me down again. Oh. So that was that. Good old Kieran Dow. It's not like him to put his size 12s in it, is it? The next day is my mum and dad's wedding anniversary, so we're back over again to Bromley. Yeah. I come home. Archie had wriggled through a little gap in the patio doors I left and eaten all of Saber's tablets. Oh no! So I had to rush into the vet and get his stomach pumped. Get Archie's stomach pumped out. He was all right anyway. So I'd lost Sabre, and my world had come crashing down with too much. That's the first dog I'd ever lost.
Yeah.
I was heartbroken. I didn't know how to cope with it.
Yeah.
So eventually, time goes on, and I looked around and trying to find a way to remember him. And in this country, there's this little tiny plaque at the National Arboretum which says, based to the service of police dogs, blah, blah, blah. So I thought, we can do better than that, surely. I looked around America, got some fantastic statues, and there's one particularly in Australia, which is fantastic as well. So I thought, we must do better than that. So I got talking to a met dog handler called Mandy Chapman.
Oh, yeah, he's got Baloo.
That's right.
Yeah.
So Mandy said, I know someone might be able to help us. I know John Doubleday, who's a sculptor, an artist. Down lives in Malden. I walk past his house, I'll have a chat with him. So John, one of the funniest people I've ever met in my life, he's got some cracking stories. He says, I'll do it for you, I'd love to do it for you. So then we start the process of raising money. So I raised 65 grand, I think it was in the end.
Wow.
And you've got this statue, unfortunately it's of me, one of Mandy's dogs, and of the terrorist. So we had this statue made, and it's at Oakland's Park.
Yeah.
Where I actually managed to put on an exhibition as well, about police dogs and their lives and service. So yes, that's the first one in the UK. There's one in Scotland now.
Is there?
This is the second one, yeah. So that was the first.
That's fantastic, mate.
Yeah, of course you was there, weren't you?
I was there. I was watching the car park. I'd retired by then, so I could, and because you had Dame Cressida Dick came along, who was very, very nice, and she absolutely loved it there. You had the PCC, you had all the dignitaries, and then you had Simon and myself. I think Tim did some car park duties as well, didn't he? Stoker. So yeah, it was good day, mate. My brother turned up in all his finery in his red and white City of London outfit. Yeah, it was absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
And but prior to that, I started because I wanted dogs to get recognised when they retired.
Yeah.
Because at the moment, before I did anything, there was nothing at all. So I thought, this can't be right. So I had a medal minted. This is in Essex, basically. I'm working with the fantastic Linda Belgrove.
Yes.
And her retired police dog.
What a great job
people.
she does.
They're incredible people.
And she was the first. I'm going to just bring you back in a second, but they were the first charity to look after police dogs, weren't they? They
quite. Lancashire was the first.
Lancashire were the first, but they were, they've brought it all together, and there's other people that claim to be everything for all dogs, but actually they're not. The Linda and the team and the Lancashire team, they don't take a penny out of any of this. So all
volunteers.
All volunteers. So you've got other organisations that are taking money for membership, and then they're profiting out of it, basically. So sorry, mate. Yes.
Yeah. So I had these medals minted, and with Linda's help, we had the first ceremony. And in fact, it was a good ceremony actually. It was in front of the big house on the lawn there.
Oh, brilliant!
Fantastic. And
when you say the big house, it's the police headquarters, Essex Police headquarters. That's all right.
And like a big house, like a big massive house. Somebody just chose at random. The big house is our old headquarters building, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we had the chief constable come along, Mr. Stephen Kavanagh.
Yeah.
He did the presentations with the PCC and Mr. and Lord Peter and all this sort of
Yeah.
That was incredible. So that was that. We're planning on the next one in April, hopefully. And so now I also do a medal for, like a national medal, nationally for dogs that retire or killed in service, something like that. Yeah, so we do that as well now, which is busy. And we've also got a roll of honour on our website where dogs that are killed in service or retired, we put them on the website as well. We have like a dog of the day. So any dogs that pass, they're put on the social platforms as well.
Yeah, I see it on Twitter, and there's some great. You do some great work.
Obviously in the research, I've heard of some fantastic heroism of dogs. I mean, sort of too like vivid to sort of talk about now, but some of the stories I've told, the heroism of the handlers of the dogs is beyond.
Oh yeah,
beyond what we can think of. Really, they're just incredible. Really,
I saw one the other day on social media where. This guy's the cops trying to pacify somebody, and he punches the dog. The dog's not out of the vehicle at the time, and he punches the officer in the face, and the officer does no more. He gets the boot of the car open, gets the dog, just brings this bloke down, and he severely wishes he hadn't punched that police officer in the face, and rightfully so. Absolutely, that dog took grave offence at his handler being attacked. But like I say, every shift needs to have have a Paul Nicholls and a sabre standing there because
perhaps not a sabre, but something.
But
a bit more suitable for dog blood.
yeah. But you know what I'm
some fluffy
saying.
old pet. Yeah, I know what you mean.
But so the memorial. It's in Oaklands Park, so people can go down there and see it, and it is fantastic. And it was a great day, as I say, and every dignitary's been there. What's happening now, Paul? I mean, your police it still runs through you. Your dad was a cop. I remember meeting your dad. Right, your dad was a DC at Chelmsford, and he was in charge of all the files. And
he's driving a desk, was he?
Oh, he was. And I got called over there because I had to see him. And I think Roy Burnett had told me that I was meeting the DCI. And my backside was going half crown sixpence. I thought, he might as well have been the DCI because all I met was this grumpy bloke who seemed old at the time, telling me what I had and what I hadn't done right in this particular file. But he was a great guy, your dad. And I'm glad to hear that they're kicking along nicely. But as I say, you've got policing like I have. You've got policing in the blood. What happens now then, Paul? Where are we at?
So 2014, after various, I said I was getting slower in it. So I went to see my doctor, and he referred me to a neurologist. And after a 5-minute consultation with a guy doesn't even look me in the eye, he says, "You've got Parkinson's." I said to him, "What? I can tell that from seeing me for 5 minutes. That's just impossible." "No, you got Parkinson." He didn't look me in the eye when he said it.
Didn't he?
So I thought that's it. The first thought coming to my head was poor old Muhammad Ali trying to light that flame with his shaky hands, you know?
Yeah.
I'm thinking that's what it'll be like. So I just couldn't accept it. So I phoned up my skipper Neil Phillips. I was in tears. I said, "Oh God!" He said, "Don't worry." I said, "Just it's fine. We'll deal with it."
We work with it.
So I come in and eventually I saw the FMO, and the FMO said, "Look, I don't care what you've got. If you're fit to work, you're fit to work." So, but then I disputed the diagnosis. "Look, I haven't got it." So then I saw a second neurologist, who's a really nice chap actually, and he said, "You haven't got it." I said, "Well, what have I got?" He said, "Anxiety or stress." He said, "Take you off the meds. See you get on." So I was all right. I was still working before the bing, bing, bing done. But then my symptoms were getting worse. I couldn't do my shoes. I couldn't turn the key in the ignition. I couldn't do a tie up. So then I went for what's called a DAT scan, where they put some fluid into your brain to try and find out what's going on. And then the consultant rang me and said, "I'm so sorry, Paul." I said, "You've got Parkinson's." I was relieved that I could start some treatment, you know?
Yeah.
So basically there's two areas in the head that look like tadpoles. And mine, they're supposed to be bright with the little tails, and mine were like just the body, like dull as anything, you know?
Right.
So he said, that was in 2014. He said, I think he's probably for about 10 years, if I'm honest.
Wow.
Yeah. So the trouble with Parkinson's, they still don't know what causes it. I mean, I had a really bad car accident in 2006 where I was hit by a car.
Right.
I was almost killed. I was hit by a bullseye of the car, massive fractures on my face. So perhaps that's it. They just don't know what it is. It could be genetic, it could be anything. So I get diagnosed, and I basically shut myself away from everybody. I was just really embarrassed about how I felt, and I just didn't want to do anything. I didn't see my friends for a year or so. Obviously, my family knew, but that's the trouble with Parkinson's. A lot of people don't want to admit it for some reason. I don't know what it is really. Yeah, but then sort of, you start to come out and you're thinking, right, how can I? What can I do now to try and deal with what I've got?
So were you on medication?
Not much. So I was almost coping with what I had, but then one of my things with Parkinson's is you get obsessive behaviour. So my first obsessive behaviour was ping pong.
Really?
Yeah, playing ping pong. I'd not played since I was a kid. But I thought, I quite like the idea of ping pong. So I started playing. I joined the club in Ipswich somewhere. Then I got to speak to a guy called Gary Lees, who's now a very good friend. He's got Parkinson's as well. Me, Gary, and another guy called Andy Cassie, we founded the first ever national ping pong championship in the UK.
Wow.
At St Neots. There's people from all over the country come to it. I don't know, it must be 30, 40 people there.
Oh, how cool's that?
So that was that we set up. But in the meantime, I just started playing football.
Because you were a good footballer, weren't you? I mean, you played in goal. You played for the Force, and you were a good goalkeeper.
Yeah, I was at Ipswich for a little while as well on their books. But anyway.
I thought you were a good goalkeeper.
Thanks, mate.
How old were you when you were at Ipswich?
5?
Yeah.
No. 13 to 14. Anyway.
Excellent.
So I started playing walking football, and what I found, Paul, for that hour I was playing, I mean, at the time I hadn't told any of my mates at Chelmsford I got PD. So for that hour I felt free of Parkinson's. I could move around. Occasionally I couldn't move my legs, so I just tell the guys that I just pulled a muscle, so I just stopped playing if my legs stopped working. So then I thought, well, if that can have that effect on me, surely other people can have that effect on other people with Parkinson's.
Yeah.
So by then I'd already been involved with the what's called the Undefeatable programme on TV, like a national campaign.
Right.
We are undefeatable. And I met Stuart Langworthy, who's the over 60s walking football manager, England football. So I got talking to him. I just explained to him what I was doing. He was playing goal. And we got talking. And then I met my superhero guy called John Roach, who lives in Liverpool.
Right.
Who also got Parkinson's. John is my inspiration. John set up a team called Northern Lights up there. Like people with Parkinson's, they do like football, they do like pantos, they dance, all sorts of stuff. So 2 years ago, we had one team, one hub in the country. We've got 14, I think, in the country we've set up.
Brilliant.
We had a day at tournament at St George's Park last year, attended by over 100 people with Parkinson's, the biggest tournament in the world ever held like that. And then we've got an England team, which I'm a member of the over 55, so I'm now an England international.
Wow.
At the age of 55.
Oh.
You're not supposed to laugh at that.
I think it's brilliant, mate.
We played at Belfast last year for our first international game. We went to Belfast, played over there. So the game's absolutely massive. So as John would say, we've still got people in dark corners crushed by the way of Parkinson's.
Of course.
So our mission is to try and get those people out of the dark corners and feel part of the family.
Yeah.
And the team just get them playing football and exercising, because exercise is a big help for people with Parkinson's.
It's brilliant, and your motivation is absolutely second to none. And I laugh because, mate, to put yourself out there at our tender age, to actually do these things, it just shows your commitment to Parkinson's. And what we'll be doing at the end of this, we'll be putting in the body all the links, all your Twitter feeds, everything that you do. We'll put that on our page so that people can reach out to you. And if there's fundraising and people want to support you, then they'll know where they've got to go to.
Thank you. But it's hard work, you know. Every day's a challenge.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I can only imagine, mate. Putting your socks on. I remember you posting a video where you were literally struggling to walk down the corridor at your previous home. And you have dark days, don't you?
Of course you do. There's days where, you thought, well, perhaps it's time to have the one-way ticket to Zurich, things like that. But then again, you think, well, tomorrow's another day, isn't it? So you get through that day, and then today's another day. But every day is a struggle, Paul. Every day is a struggle. I tell you, people with Parkinson's, I've met some incredible people who are battling Parkinson's. Some people. I mean, we had some guy turn up in Liverpool. Me and John were doing a session there, and he came in walking 2 walking sticks, and he could hardly move, Paul. By the end of the session, he got rid of his sticks, and he was all right. Not all right, but he was moving a lot freer.
Yeah.
There's some people in some dark corners. It's a really horrible condition.
Oh yeah, and like you say, I can imagine that you get that feeling you want that one-way ticket to Zurich.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's interesting because you worked with medical dogs as well. Now, was that since or whilst you were in the police service?
So, whilst I was still working the dogs, I was becoming aware of the medical detection dogs that train dogs to detect cancer.
Right.
I was really interested in the way they train the dogs. How you could train a dog to find such a tiny odour, if you like.
Yeah.
So once I was diagnosed, I obviously did a bit of research, and I'd heard about this woman called Joy in Scotland who could smell Parkinson's in people. In fact, some days I could smell it myself. It's like a musty smell,
Is that right?
Mm. Perhaps just, Anyway, so I'm thinking, surely if we can smell it, dogs can smell it. Something so strong. So I went to the guys there, and I spoke to the CEO, a woman called Claire Guest, who founded it. I said to her, this is what I'm thinking, what do you think? She said, we'll give it a go. So they did a trial, and dogs are now trained, first ever dogs trained to detect Parkinson's in the world. Now, I don't know how far that study's got, because I think the sort of medical people, or the pharmaceutical people, they want to have this, what's called an electronic nose, like a machine that detects it, which I don't think is as effective as the dogs. So there's like a bit of a battle there to decide.
Yeah.
where that's going.
But it's another clever, fantastic use of such a sensitive nose. When you were in the police, of course, you qualified as a sports therapist. So you not only were you taking part in your golf, your football, and everything else, you're also doing. I remember once I'd done my back, and you were giving me a sports massage in the custody suite at about 10 o'clock at night. It was
where
down in the doctor's room at Braintree Nick.
Really?
Yeah, I remember that. Maybe it wasn't you, but anyway, no, it was you. It was you, Paul. It was you. And obviously, that's not something you do now. Your sports therapy, or do you still practice?
I'm still interested in it. Yeah.
You co-founded a number of different things, but your love has moved into art, hasn't it? I mean, you and I'm very grateful, and I will put this picture up. You've just presented to me a fantastic painting. Now, you've been displayed at the Oxo Tower, or Oxo Gallery?
In London, yeah. There's a Parkinson's exhibition up there, and I was lucky enough to be out there at the same time as a guy called Alex Echo. I think it's Alex Echo, who's quite a famous artist. You try and look at his work, it's fantastic. Yeah, so there's a guy called Trevor. Trevor, he's founded Parkinson's art. Another fantastic someone with Parkinson's was driving and ambition and whatever. So Trevor's got this exhibition, this space at the Oxford Gallery, and I've got this painting of the beach house I've got up there, and I've got this mannequin I've painted as well. And much to my wife's delight, I was interviewed by the sort of bit of hot reporter from ITN, I forgot his name is, so she was happy with that as well. Yeah, so it's a bit like Forrest Gump sometimes, you know. Forrest Gump. Oh, I play ping pong, so I do this, and I sort of do darts, I do it at this. I play football, and I play for England, and it's almost like surreal, you know, all these things I'm doing now.
But you're not going to give up, are you, Paul?
Nah, you can't give up.
No.
I mean, there's quite a good saying. Parkinson's doesn't have me. I have Parkinson's. You know?
Yeah.
And when I was first diagnosed, they said it could be life limiting. And my stock phrase to that is, well, it depends where you set your limits. Yeah,
absolutely.
Basically, yeah.
And but you've had some radical surgery, haven't you?
Yeah.
I mean, it's which has improved your quality of life.
Yeah.
I know we spoke earlier about the dark times and literally banging your head against a brick wall because
the frustration.
That's not figurative. That's literally out of frustration.
Yeah.
Do you mind talking us through what they did, what the procedure was?
Yeah, I mean, how graphic do you want me to be?
You be as graphic as you like. If you're listening to this, it is quite graphic, but it does give you a clue as to the procedures that people go through in order to maintain a good quality of life.
So it's called DBS, Deep Brain Stimulation or Stimulus. I can't remember what it's called now. Yeah, so basically the idea is that they put some electrodes into your head to stop the bad signals of Parkinson's. So I went out to Queens, and I mean, hero is a really underused words for surgeons and doctors.
Yeah,
more used for footballers and stuff. But in my mind, these guys are incredible. I mean,
yeah.
Mr. Lau and Dr. Misaboon, they've basically saved my life, Paul. They really have. So you go in there and you have this cage fitted around your head under anaesthetic. So you take them then they do an MRI, make sure they get the cage in the spot. So the idea is the cage because they're going to drill a hole in your head, 2 holes in your head,
right? And
just make sure, obviously, it's quite accurate.
That's quite important.
Yeah. So actually, get back a little bit to I'm going for a consultation, and obviously Mr. Lau is a funny old chap, and he's troused up, he's having his sleeves rolled up, and he's doing his notes, and he says to me, "You have to shave your head." I was like, "You tend to be."
Yeah, for those listening, Paul and I are both follically challenged, so there was no need to shave his head.
Yeah. So anyway, so you get this frame fitted around your head, and I'm asleep, and they bring me to, and I obviously know what's going on next. So they bring me to, and the reason why you're awake and you're asleep is because they need to make sure you're off your drugs, and then when they put the actual procedure into your head, they know they hit the right spot. So I'm just coming to, and they start drilling. And you don't have any anaesthetic because apparently there's no nerve endings in the head.
Is there not?
No, apparently not.
So they drill into your cranium.
So you feel it go, it's like a pop.
Yeah.
And then you can, then they put the electrodes in your head, and you can hear the squeaking as these things pass down into your brain. I mean the guys trying to hit a target 1 millimetre wide, blindfolded basically. And And then so then they turn it on slightly just to make sure it's all working. You have to do a series of tests like the finger tap. You have to say certain words and things like that. And then they put you out again, and they put this like a power pack into your chest, which powers the whole thing. It's like a rechargeable thing.
Right.
So you have to recharge it every week or so.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
You plug it into a USB?
That was just stupid. You put like a plate on the...
Plate on it. Oh, like you're charging your mobile phone type thing.
Yeah, that's it. It's charged up every now and again. But the trouble is, though, they got settings.
Right.
So they can turn you up, turn you down.
Fine-tune it.
Yeah. So that's just the procedure that they do now. It's incredible, really, what they do.
And how did that make you feel after you'd gone through the procedure?
Once it's turned on, it's almost like a release. They almost like give your body your life back to you,
right?
And it's gone like it's gone 360 basically. I mean, there's no way that I could do the things now like I did then when I was first diagnosed, because I was just getting worse and worse and worse, and the depression was getting worse and worse and worse. But now you used to have dark days. Still, okay. I think it's just the nature of the beast, unfortunately. But no, it's transformed my life completely.
You've got a great network, and I know you keep in contact with some of our former colleagues and people that you joined the job with. So, there's a lot of people you can turn to. But you've also done your stint as a Samaritan's call taker, haven't you? You've done...
Yes. You're right, I have. I think it was Joanne, my wife, has said that she was working with someone who'd trained as a listening volunteer. So I thought, I'll give that a go now. See what that's like. So I went for the training, and it's quite rigorous training. Yeah. I think because obviously my previous job, you become a bit used to dealing with death, if you like.
Yeah.
And people in special situations, and so it's very much about how you feel about this, how you feel about that. So I did that. I just couldn't believe how busy they are.
Oh, really?
The phone does not stop ringing from the moment you get into the moment you go home.
No way.
I think you do 3 or 4 hour stints. So it could be 5 in the morning, 6 in the morning. The phone does not stop ringing.
Really?
Honestly. And I was fortunate to lose a couple of people on the calls.
Really?
Yeah.
That's hard.
Well, you say that, Paul, but I think because of our job, we just become hardened.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think we have that sort of almost... We have that humour.
That block, almost.
We do. We have that emotional block.
But their networking of dealing with that is really good. People ring up and say, what happened? How do you feel about it? Because, talk us through what went on. That was nice. But the trouble is, they got to the stage where I just couldn't concentrate and talk to people for that length of time. If you talk to someone on a phone call for an hour, and you got to concentrate on it, it's so hard. It's exhausting, Yeah.
And
I just couldn't. I wasn't able to do it anymore. So I had to knock it on the head.
Well, before we conclude this interview, I have got a question of you. And you explained to me earlier on about the difference between the sight of a dog and the smell of a dog compared to a human.
Oh, what, that analogy?
Yeah, what was it? What was it? It's a fascinating fact.
So let me get this right. So I think the analogy is, if you analogize their sense of smell to our sight, what we can see at 1/3 of a mile, they can see at 3,000 miles.
That's incredible.
So that just gives you an idea of how much better this is. I think that there's another one. It's they can detect 1 spot of blood in a swimming-sized pool of water.
It's incredible. And we see our pets, and no wonder they look at me a little bit old-fashioned. But
I was just in awe of what they could do.
Oh yeah.
I was just like, how on earth have you just done that? You're just a bloody fantastic little animal, weren't you? To do that, it's amazing.
So my story about the police dogs, and I absolutely adore police dogs, and I'd take every opportunity, certainly when I was in uniform, to jump in the police van. Kevin Rowe was a dog handler, as we know, and there has been a church that had been broken into in Molsham Street or around that area, New London Road, New London Road, and I am the night duty DC, and I've gone in there. And all of a sudden, he comes in and says, "Police dog, stand still." I'm like, oh my God. And this dog just came rushing up and stopped. I mean, he would have just taken me out there. Paul, before we end this interview, is there anything you'd like to add, alter, clarify, change?
Nah. It's all right, innit?
It's all right.
It's all right, innit?
I am very grateful for your time. It was lovely. It's lovely to see you here today. It goes without saying, if you need anything, you just got to shout out.
I appreciate it. Thank you, mate.
All right, mate.
Cheers, buddy.
Thank you very much.